Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of A Conversation With here on the SevereMMA YouTube page. I am me, Spencer Kyte, and I am joined today by Dan Ige, fresh off a second-round stoppage win over Damon Jackson. Dan, thanks for doing this, man. I know you've got some stuff coming up, a little well-earned vacation on the horizon, so I appreciate you taking time like this.
Yeah, of course. It feels good just to be on the other side of a win. And I got a little family time, some planned family time coming up. Looking forward to that. But, for this week, it's just kind of riding that downhill and easy, mellow week, do some media, do some recovery. And just getting ready for that vacation. But back to the grind shortly after.
We'll get to the emotional part of that victory. But first, I want to this is the first opportunity I've had on this program to talk to somebody fresh off a win and a beautiful finish at that. So walk me through kind of that shot and that moment, if you can. Is it a thing that you saw throughout the fight that if we get into this kind of exchange, I'm going to have room to land this hook? Is it a in the moment thing? And when it lands, you clearly knew we're done here. What's that feeling like?
Going into the fight, my game plan was to go in there, control the distance, control the pace. And I think all that kind of led to the setup of landing the hook. But when I was in there, I just felt so calm, so in the moment. And I was looking to draw him out. So I kind of got in, like I was working my in and out movements, got in, caught him a couple of times. I think I caught him really early, like within the first 8 seconds, kind of that first scuffle we got in. I hit him right on the top of the head and wobbled him a little bit. So I think immediately he felt my power, and probably thought in his head, I shouldn't be engaging with this guy, but he was in the middle of a fight. So there's nothing much he can do, but besides engage. I think he tried to use his movement well, but I knew just to stay patient, and eventually, if it was the left hand or the right hand, it didn't matter. I knew if I connected flush, I'd put him out. He's been knocked out before, so he's like, when you see a guy get knocked out, there's some hope you can also knock him out. I've seen Damon's been knocked out a few times, so I knew if I landed a clean shot. But honestly, anyone who would have ate that shot would have probably got put down. So it was just the perfect timed shot when he dropped his hand on the uppercut, and that set up the hook perfectly. So there was a lot on my part, obviously just setting it up by drawing him out, being patient, but technical side on his part, he dropped that uppercut to his hip, and my timing is just on. I've been repping this over and over and over. I always do reaction drills with my coaches, and it was just muscle memory from there. It wasn't something that I went in there like I saw on tape or anything. It was just a in the moment type of thing.
And when a shot like that lands, obviously in the fight itself, you just turned and walked away. You knew he's not getting up for this, as you said. If it hits anybody, they're staying down. But when it lands like that, what's the visceral reaction? What's the body feeling when that shot lands and this is that walk-off shot and I'm just going back to my corner to get a hug?
For me, because it was just so in the moment, I felt it connect, and I just watched his eyes roll back and his knees bend backwards, and he hit the mat. He hit his head on the mat, and I knew from then on, I could have jumped on him and hit him with 2 or 3 more shots, but I knew the job was done, or close to that. It was 100% done. And I just think it's badass if you could just hit someone and walk away. Just shows like you've been there before. I've been here before. I think there's a time and place to jump on the cage, celebrate, but I just think it's so much cooler. You lay a guy out and walk off like you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, just walk off like it ain't no thing. It's just the way this was going to go. Let me go wave at the camera or mug at the camera and get around a daps from the boys in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, you watch Mike Tyson go out there and knock. He's not jumping on the ropes. Right. He walks in, knocks the guy out, cracks his neck, and then walks off. That's the mentality.
That's the aesthetic we're going for. I understand. You mentioned off the top, and obviously watching the fight last weekend, pretty emotional win. Came into it on a 3-fight losing streak, had lost 4 of your last 5. It had been almost 2 years since a victory. What goes into, I mean, walk me through, if you can, some of that kind of stretch of 3 losses. You mentioned it talking with Felder. There's some anxiety, there's some depression, there's some just trying to get yourself right mentally to
Yeah.
know that I can still do this. So if you can, and to the level that you're willing to talk about it,
Yeah.
just talk to me about some of that, because I can imagine it's a really torturous thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it stemmed from losing the Korean Zombie fight. That was a fight. I just felt so close to like to gold. I I saw that fight as my opportunity to go in there and make a statement and do something big and perhaps get a title shot. Not that I know I've been on winning streaks in the past, but just the position I was in, the layout of the division at the time, had there was guys that already fought for the belt. I think Zombie was up. Zombie fought for the belt right
Fought for the
after.
belt after it. Yeah.
So I just kind of I was positioning myself, and it was a fight I asked for after Gavin Tucker, and I didn't think it would come so soon. And just like the whole like my son was, I got the call. I was in the hospital with my wife. Um, it was a fight I asked for. I wasn't gonna say no because of circumstances. So I told my wife, this is a huge opportunity. She was on board 100%. Literally about to give birth in like hours. She gives birth. I had 12 weeks notice, so I took the first 4 weeks obviously to get adapted to, being a dad. I didn't get like I was training, but I didn't get into it right away. I had to enjoy those first couple three,
For
4 weeks
sure.
and support my wife. Like going through birth is insane. Um, but I was super motivated. Obviously, becoming a dad, I was really motivated. And for that 8 weeks, I sacrificed everything. I sacrificed my time with them. I sacrificed my time with her. I did everything right in my preparation. I worked the hardest I've ever worked um, in that training camp. And I went into that fight ready to make a statement. And I didn't have a game plan. My game plan was I was just gonna make a big statement. That was it. There was
Right.
no game plan. There was no. I mean, my coaches had an idea of how to beat him, but I I kind of thought the zombie would go out there and do what the zombie does and get into brawls. And in my head, I knew I was better than him at that. He came in with a great game plan and turned into a wrestler.
Right.
It took me
Right.
down. I mean, that was it's not that I didn't work wrestling, but it was just a little unexpected on my end. Um, and he would secure position, got me in a body triangle a few times, couldn't escape. And it's not like one of the things, well, why don't you work body triangle escapes? It's like we worked positions, but you just
Right.
get stuck there sometimes. And so in my head, I was like, all right, he got that one. Go on next round. There was never a moment of doubt in the whole fight. Even into the 5th round, I was like, I think I could still knock him out. So it was still that mindset. I never shifted. I never adapted in the moment. Lost the fight, and I think that's where like some of the depression started stemming from. I was like, dude, I'm a dad, but I lost. I'm a failure. Um, just kind of like it sucked in the moment, right? So did whatever, I I didn't really know I was depressed, but you just kind of like go through the motions and keep doing the same thing. So got kind of back in the gym, just going through, but there was no real like fire. I mean, there was fire to get a win, but there was just like I don't know, it was weird. And then remember we got the call to fight Josh Emmett. Uh I think I had like 7 weeks notice. Sean Shelby called me. and it was T-Mobile. Josh Emmett. I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that
Right.
actually at the time. I was like,
Still a top 5 guy, big name,
yeah,
good winning streak.
yeah, I didn't expect them to give me that fight, but I think he was supposed to fight Arnold Allen, and Arnold
Yep.
Allen got injured. No surprise. Um, so I was there and I was ready. So I took the fight, just because I was like, oh, that's another big name. Here's another opportunity to just put myself right back up there. And uh, I ended up like herniating some discs 3 weeks out from that fight, and I was in good shape when it happened. Um, but I just looked at it like I'm a guy that does well like off adversity. So I just, again, saw it as adversity and something I had to overcome. Um, and I was like, I'm just gonna hit pads and stay sharp and stay in decent shape and take the fight because I didn't. Again, I didn't see like I don't know. I had a
Yeah.
problem with saying no or pulling out of fights. Um, but I just didn't see myself pulling out of the fight because I was in shape, and I was like, if I could keep this in control, we'll make it to the fight. And then make it to the fight. And I remember just walking out again. Just I didn't I didn't have like a emotion. I didn't have like feeling almost. I was super numb. Fought a good fight. I I think I took me one round to like wake up a little bit. Fought a good fight, close fight, lost the fight. So in my head, I mean, I've lost one in a row. I've never lost two in a row. Um, and I thought there was no way I could lose three in a row.
Right.
So,
Right.
um, we get off that fight. Next was feeling good. Hasn't given me any problems. So I kind of got right back to it, and I got a call kind of shortly after the fight, maybe in February. They called me for the Mozart fight. Again, I was like, a guy probably no one wanted to fight.
Right. No one
Um,
is I can confirm from what I know and where I sit. No one wants to fight that dude.
yeah, but I was like, I think I got a style to beat this guy.
Yep.
That was my mindset. You know, there's honestly there's not a ton of caution, maybe from other people, but not for myself. And I was like, well, I can't lose three in a row. you know, it's with
Yep.
the MMA gods, like the math. It's just you
Right.
can't lose three in a row. Um, so I got 17 weeks of preparation. So I had like this Rocky three mindset. Like I'm going up to actually, I did the first month in Vegas at base camp. I did it with the Russians. I trained, just so happened Khabib and them were in town. So I was like, I'm going
Right.
to train with these guys for a month. I do everything they do. Um, grapple every day, spar 3 times a week. I didn't do strength and conditioning. I just did all Russian training. I was like, get to know thy enemy. Like that was my mindset.
Right.
Um, trained with them really hard. And then I went to Colorado for a month. That's where like even the Rocky mindset. I was like, I'm going up to the mountains.
Yep.
Jago's over in Russia, wherever he is training.
Right.
um, and I grinded up there with Gagey and all those guys for a month. Then I came back and I had still had 9 weeks, and I went balls to the wall because I wasn't gonna lose. Like that was
Right.
my
Gonna give
mindset.
yourself every opportunity. Do
Yeah,
everything you can.
yeah, and I think somewhere along those lines, I burnt out a little bit mentally. I was motivated. I wasn't even like really depressed anymore. I kind of by this point I'm like overcoming depression, but I don't even know. Still don't even know I was
Right.
depressed.
Right.
Um, so I go into. I remember going into that fight just in the back, warming up, no energy, nothing, just kind of like now I'm nervous because I'm like, fuck,
Right.
I'm tired already,
Right.
and I haven't even like I hit pads for like 2 minutes in the back, and I was tired. I was like, didn't want to even break a sweat. But I was like, I'm not gonna pull out now. You just go
Right.
through the motions. You go through
Right.
it. Maybe it's just part of it. So fight that fight, and that fight went how it went. I think most it was his best night and my worst night, and that's a bad combination for me. But I toughed through it. You know,
Yep.
I didn't want to. I still didn't want to quit. There was never a thought of quit in my head, but I got beat up in that fight, and that's when I like took time to really start picking myself apart, I guess, to the core, and started working with like a mental mental health coach, whatever, therapist, what do you call
Yep.
it, sports psychologist. We start breaking things down like to my very core, like back to my like childhood.
Yep.
um, Start unrevealing things about whatever how the things I went through, what made me be so adaptable, and just kind of in practicing how to be in the moment again. Because I think I said a little bit in my post fight interview. There would be days where, okay, I just fought. I should be spending time with my family now, enjoying this family time, but I'm with my son or like stuck in a daze because all
Right.
I can think about is either the past, which is depression,
Right.
because that's where depression stems from, things that happened in the past, things that you can't unchange, but you're stuck on them. And then
Or you're worrying
simultaneously,
about the future.
yeah, simultaneously, I'm having anxiety about the future, the what ifs.
Right.
What if I lose my next fight? Will I lose my job? Will I end up homeless? Am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to take care of my family? I'm a dad now. A lot of anxiety. So it wasn't going into this fight. I mean, I worked on my mind so much and worked on my personal life more than I trained really hard too. But I think working on my mind was the most important thing. And you don't get rid of anxieties and depression. You
You
just
just
learn
learn
how
how
to
to
sit
deal
with
with
them.
them. Yep.
Yeah, you learn how to deal with them. Um, so for me, it was just a lot like I got really into like breathing, doing different types of breathing. Then I hired a breath coach, and we worked on like for like 3 months. I did like performance breath work on like bike, swimming, walking, breath holds at home. Um, Started cold plunging daily in the morning, like first thing, just overcoming something hard, and then also being completely in the moment at the time. So did a lot of that, a lot of sauna work, and just mindfulness. And through all that training, I learned how to enjoy being in the moment when I'm with my family. I know how to, when I go train, I have practices that I'm in the, like, I ground myself in the moment. I do like, what do you call it? Just like a sensory scan of like feeling, smell, uh, visual. What do I hear? Things like that when I go to the gym. And then I get the most out of my training session. And then I carried all these techniques all the way up to fight night, and I continue to do them even like in the back, breathing when I'm walking out to the cage, just kind of taking everything in. And I think that's why you just saw such a poised, relaxed, on point Dan Ige, because there was no anxiety. There's times in the past where I get so caught up on thinking about the future that you miss the fight because
Right.
you're not in the moment. You're thinking about this fight every day, and the fight comes, but you're programmed to like think in the future.
Right.
So you miss the moment. But I was there every moment, and even after the fight, I didn't let myself get too high or too low. I took it in, and went back home with my family that night, and yeah, now it's their time. But yeah, That's pretty much.
Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you sharing all of that, because there's some hard stuff in there. Like there's some difficult stuff in there that a lot of people probably aren't comfortable talking about themselves, don't want to acknowledge that they, needed to seek out these different things. Anybody that follows me on social media knows that I am a huge advocate for mental health work. I've been seeing a therapist for 7 years. We talk every month. Greatest decision I've made in my life, save for marrying my wife.
Yeah.
You mentioned in there, you know, feeling a little bit like a failure off that loss to the zombie, and then it compounds, again of, I can't lose two straight. I've never lost two straight. I'm not going to lose two straight. Then it's two. Well,
Yeah.
I've never lost three straight. It's not going to be. What's that weight feel like as you're going through it, and how coming into this one, is it just that work with therapist, with breath coach, with kind of, as you said, centering into those moments that allows you to kind of discharge yourself, or remove that weight from your shoulders?
Yeah, it was a lot of those techniques. There's obviously still pressure to win, and it's so hard to detach yourself from the outcome. It's
Yep.
almost impossible. But actually, I heard someone break it down good. I don't know if you've seen that documentary Stutz on
I haven't
Netflix.
seen it yet. It's in the queue though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So it's like Jonah Hill's therapist, and he breaks it down. He talks about detachment from outcome, and he said he broke it down better than anyone I've ever heard. And he was saying you can never detach yourself from outcome, because deep down, like, we all want to win. I don't want to
Right.
lose, dude,
Right.
but you want to win, and no matter
Right.
what. But if you move in the direction of detaching yourself from the outcome, if you move in the direction, then you're on a better path. So I just approached the fight. I didn't I didn't feel a ton of pressure. I felt normal nervousness. Um, after weigh-ins, like you feel weak. It's like 3 p.m. I weighed in at 9 a.m. It's like 3 p.m. I'm like just barely recovering, and like you doubt yourself. I'm like, man, I feel weak. Can I even like
Right.
overcome it?
How am I going to feel in 24 hours when
Yeah,
Damon Jackson is going to want to punch me in the face and drag me to the canvas?
exactly. And then I'm like, then you like think like, well, I hope like I don't want to feel like not recovered going in like the last fight where I was tired, and then you start feeling a little better. So I'm like, all right, okay, there's some hope. And then you go into fight day, and it's like I'll eat breakfast, and then again, like nerves, just that natural anxiety, and that's something you just have to like. This is a normal feeling as a human being, and you start to accept it, but um it's not like a crippling thing. You can't let it like my mental or my therapist, we talk about it as like a dirty anxiety and clean anxiety. So it's okay to have those natural feelings that you just have.
Right.
So I kind of embraced it a little bit and be like, all right, this is good. Like I'm feeling I'm alive. I didn't have that in Josh Emmett, it's like, but
Right.
I'm understand, which I should have. I mean, he's one of the most dangerous
Right.
AO artists alive. I'm like, I don't really care. But
Right.
yeah, you go through those feelings, and as the day goes on and you get a little closer, you're like, all right, I'm kind of getting more excited, and start driving to the venue. I drove myself, and playing my music. I'm getting a little more confident, a little more excited, and that was it. Just kind of having fun and like living in the moment of living in my feeling. Like this is what I train every single day for. Um, so I just enjoyed it. And at the last minute, you can just flip that switch over a little bit. But I think if you have that switch on for too long, that ready to fight switch, you can burn out. You
Right.
can burn out in that day.
Right.
Um, so I try to control that switch to the last second when I step in there, and then it's you know I'm on. I'm in the moment. But Yeah, I kind of forgot what you were saying, but
No, it's we're all good. I'm gonna steal clean and dirty anxiety because I like that. I
yeah, yeah,
understand that. As soon as you said it, I was like, that makes complete sense to me. I'm writing it down. I'm mentioning it to my therapist when we talk next. I like that idea.
yeah, yeah. It's
Fight.
totally true. I mean,
Yeah.
your dirty anxieties come from like the what it like
Yep.
the little paths you start going down
Yeah.
in your head, and you're like, shit. Well, what if I go out there? What if he knocks me out? What if I lose? What if
Right.
the other anxiety is
All
just
the
like,
stuff that isn't in our control that
yeah,
drives us crazy. Yep. That does
yeah,
exactly what you just did there. They're like, let
yeah,
me just hide in this jacket and get away from all of it.
yeah, yeah,
You had the opportunity in that fight week to spend the week preparing for fighting after one of your very close friends in Punahele Soriano. You guys have known each other since like childhood, from what I understand. 10-minute walk down the road from each other on the
yeah.
North Shore. What was that experience like? Just getting to finally go through an actual fight week together. But then what's it like in the back when there's your little brother going out there and it doesn't go his way?
Yeah. Um, the whole week, including the fight, like, I mean, again, it was a dream come true for us. I know it's not what Puna wanted. It's not what I wanted for him.
Of course.
Um, but the week, the whole camp, just getting to go through a camp, getting to go through that process with one of my best friends was, was awesome. Even though we trained every day together, but it was
Right.
like it was special. So we built each other up, we boosted each other up. Um, and I think he might have experienced a little mental burnout. If I'm, you know, I know him pretty well. I think he was feeling that. I don't know if it's the pressure from the fight, just his own pressure. Just
Yeah.
he works really hard. I know he got really sick, and but he wanted this so bad. He wanted it so bad. So um, we get to fight night, and Puna's so different. He's the exact opposite than me. I try to stay pretty close to myself and natural in the back, but for him, fight like he's the happy go jolly guy. Fight
Right.
week, he's like fight day, he's a serial killer. He wakes up and he's just like I don't even say hi, hey, Puna, like he's scary. I don't even I don't want
It's
to.
the one day where you don't interact with him.
I don't even want to say hi. He's, um,
Fair enough.
but yeah, I we were in the back warming up. We both have our own warm ups and do our thing. And a couple of times I was like, "Hey, man, like excited, I'm excited," and he'd be like, "I'm excited too," but then get right back into his kind of pacing, mad dog, whatever he does. Um, and then right before they walked out, I was already like kind of getting warm up. They're about to
Right.
walk out. Eric came over and he's like, "Hey, no matter the outcome, don't get too high or too low. Stay focused." And so again, I started hitting pads with Jim Gifford in the back because Eric was out there, and I was kind of watching out of my side eye. I would watch Puna, watch some exchanges, get back on the pads, watch him again. But for the first time, like I wasn't nervous watching him. I get so nervous when I watch my friends fight because it's something beyond your control, right? And
Right.
I didn't feel that. I don't know if it was because I was already getting in the zone. And round one went by. I was like, dang, that was a tough round. You could already see visually. It was like feeling that tiredness. Um, then I get on the bike, the assault bike, and I'm like just keeping myself warm, but watching the fight. And I saw he got finished, and yeah, it sucked. I sprinted for like 20 seconds because I just got like upset for him.
Right.
Sprinted 20 seconds, but immediately got back because I knew I had to focus and I had a fight to fight. But we've been through that before in like wrestling.
Right.
I've seen him win, I've seen him lose, but you still have to go out there and do your thing. Um, and it's been the opposite order for him as well, where I
Right.
would wrestle first and then he'd wrestle after. Yeah, it sucked for him, but I know he'll be better. I know he'll be better from it. but he just has to figure out a few little things. And I feel like I've been through the things he's gone through, and yeah, we'll see. You know,
Yeah,
you could only help someone so much, but they have to help themselves.
for sure. So I asked him during fight week, we spoke, and I said, look, has there ever been a point where Dan has looked at you, whether it's Wartburg College, whether it's you move to Las Vegas, you come and train at Extreme Couture, where he's just been like, bro, I love you, but I need some space. Like I joked with him, I was like, you live next door to him, don't you? You moved to Vegas and bought the house next door. He's like, no, this is the only time, the only place we have separation is
Yeah,
we live a little bit away from each other.
yeah,
What's it like having that though, and sharing that with somebody? Like you guys have been on the chasing this dream path and taking the steps together since you were kids. What's that like to share that closely with somebody?
yeah. Honestly, this week brought a lot of light to it, and it brought a lot of good reminiscing to like look how far we've come. Um, from going to high school together, like Puna and I were like the nice, quiet kids. The nice, quiet kids get bullied. You know, it's not like
Right.
we just it was something we went through, but we had wrestling, we had a good outlet. He had football. Um, and then I got to a point actually before I even started wrestling, I was like, dude, I don't want to get in Hawaii is different, man. Someone like you just get into fights, you get into
Yep.
scraps, and one of my other best friends at the time and his dad fought MMA way back, like in Rumble on the Rock and like old school fights in Hawaii. We went and trained in his backyard, and we were like mostly jujitsu stuff. He was a purple belt, but he would just have us like rep triangles and arm bars, triangles and arm bars. And within a year, I think I got really good. It's just no gi grappling, and then I started training in the gi a little bit, and eventually in my junior year, I started wrestling. And Puna was actually the guy to tell me, "Hey, you should start wrestling."
Right. That's what he
Um,
said. He said he dragged you to wrestling and he's been then following you ever since.
yeah, yeah. So he got me into wrestling, and I was a year older than him. So I graduated. I graduated from high school, found Wartburg, and then because I wanted to continue to wrestle after 2 years, and went to Wartburg. I told Puna about it. I was like, hey, this because he's the one that got me into wrestling. I was like, this
Right.
school's pretty cool. Like it's in Iowa. Wrestling's good. I
Yep.
was like, I've never seen anything like this before. These guys are animals. Like, um, so he came up there, came to Iowa, and I stuck at Wartburg for 2 years before I came home one summer. I think I fought MMA, and I was like, dude, this is what I want to do.
Right.
But so I transferred to UH. He stuck it out for 4 years, became All American. I was already fighting MMA at the time, probably 2 years in. So by the time he graduated and moved back home, I was already like pretty situated, training every day. Uh, had committed to the dream, like this is what I want to do.
Right.
Um, so I told him, come, come by the gym. You should come by sometime. He was so against. He's like, no, like he's like, I don't want to go. And then I got him to come to a wrestling day, and once he came that day, he he loved it.
Have a
And
little success because it's a thing you're comfortable with.
yeah,
And then you're hooked.
and then everyone's there, so the pressure's on there. Hey, come spar tomorrow.
Right.
So you come,
Right.
start come to sparring, come grapple, and then he just, got hooked and was training every day and just I don't know. I think I don't know if I turned pro yet, but I might have turned pro. And then I remember he took like 2 or 3 amateur fights, just like started killing guys, like you see him in the UFC. And so he picked it up instantly, and he had like this vicious KO power from the start. I
Right.
remember boxing Puna in my backyard. We were both in high school, and I only had one set of gloves, so I had like a MMA glove and like a Fairtex like 16-ounce glove. So I took the right hand because I was right-handed. He took the left hand because he was left-handed of the Fairtex glove, and then had the MMA glove on the other hand. And I remember he said he told me like his dad was a boxer, but he never trained boxing in his life. I sparred him, and I felt that raw power before. I'll tell you that I felt it in my backyard. Um, so yeah, I knew. I always knew he had like a raw gift of power, raw talent, and you started seeing it early in his fights. Like he never had to use his wrestling. His wrestling's so good, but he's never really had to use it because he started knocking guys out from the
Right.
beginning. Um, and yeah, it's just back to your question. It's just cool to like reminisce. The fight week brought back a lot of memories, and articles come out. Like from the news was writing a couple stories on us back home in Hawaii, and it was like cool to just read it and be like, dude, look how far we came.
Right.
This is awesome. This is awesome. So we enjoyed the moment, I think.
Yeah. In that vein of sort of being able to step back for a second and go, look how far we came. When you're stuck in that, probably not when you're stuck in that losing streak. You can't do this. But one of the things I often advocate for, whether we're doing previews, whether I'm talking about athletes on any of the shows that I do, is like guys like yourself that we know the level that you have. We know where you stand in the division. Sort of, we know what it takes to beat Dan Ige. We know that it's only the elite have beaten you
Mhm.
inside the octagon. Are you able to sort of look at that and go, I think right now, if I pull up the rankings, you're number 13
Yeah.
at featherweight. Are you able to take pride in that and hold on to some of that of I'm the 13th best, 14th best fighter in this division in the UFC in the top organization in the sport, and hold on to that and find value and pride in that? Or is it that other side of there's these guys that are in front of me, and because obviously everybody wants to work ahead, everybody wants to be further along than they are, but are there moments where you allow yourself that grace and that kindness of recognizing I've done this thing and I've gotten to this point, this is still a big accomplishment?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both, 50-50, 60-40. I don't
Yeah.
I definitely take pride in my accomplishments and, the guys I have beaten, even the guys I've lost to, like knowing that they are some of the best guys for sure. And not have been finished. Like there's little
Right.
things that you could take pride in that sense, in that fact. Um, but then there's the other side, obviously, that believes I could beat the guys that I've lost to, or
Right.
I could still beat these guys ahead of me, and that's something that keeps me going. So you got to have both. I think you got to be able to enjoy a little bit because, dude, I've seen guys win titles and not, that didn't make them happy. You gotta
Right.
like kind of be
Right.
happy to be happy. Something's not gonna make you happy. So over my years, I'm getting better at it. I just like I take pride in my work, but I don't live within my pride and live within my work. So you just kind of take note of it, um, and you just keep moving on. It's one step at a time, one goal at a time, and yeah, I fought the who's who's. I'll continue to fight, guys to add to my resume, and I'm writing my story right now. It's just so it's cool to look back on, but the story's not finished, and I'll continue to write some pretty
Yeah.
cool things.
Part of the reason I reached out is you had tweeted the other day, who's next with the melty man emoji. Do you have names in mind? You threw a little like Arnold Allen got hurt, of course, out
Yeah,
there earlier. Is he on the hit list? Like, is there some tension, some frustration seeing a guy that's at that point that just constantly seems to not be able to go and not be able to be active?
yeah.
Is there other guys in the division that are on your mind at this time?
Um, I mean, when I look at it from a realistic standpoint, like I would love the Arnold Allen fight. I don't know. I think he deserves better. Like he's on has one of the biggest winning streaks in the division. He hasn't had that moment. I mean, the Dan Hooker one was big, but he hasn't had that solidifying fight that's going to be like this is he give this guy the title. You
Right.
know, the Calvin Cater could have been a big one, but it was just
Things
it
went the
happened
way
when
they
it
went.
happened.
Yeah.
You know, and that sucks. That sucks. You know, it would be like if my fight with Damon Jackson ended on the claimed eye poke or whatever, and it's just like that would
Right.
suck.
Right.
You know, no, I socked him in the eye socket, but um, I don't. I don't really. There's a few guys, right?
Yep.
I mean, Yair and Emmett are booked. I'm not fighting any of those guys right now. I don't. I don't know if Arnold Allen was supposed to fight Max Holloway or who. What I know that was the fight they talked about, but he never said who they were
Right.
supposed to fight. There's Brian Ortega. I don't know what's going on with him. Like that's another fight I would like. I don't know if that makes sense because of where he's at for like for the company and for him. You know,
Right.
unless he just sees me as an easy guy. But uh, that's
Which you most certainly are not. I will say it.
yeah. Then you got who else? You got Calvin Cater and Zombie fought those guys.
Yeah. Cal's out.
Cater, yeah. This okay. Then you got Taporia just came off a big win over Bryce Mitchell. That fight was a fight that was supposed to happen in December, but it ended up not happening. Um, got Movsar.
Yeah,
You got Sadiq
there's
and
not many
Giga.
guys. Yeah, there's Giga, there's
Giga and
Sadiq
Sadiq, I
Youssef.
believe, are going to be fighting because I think Giga was supposed to fight the Zombie, and I know Giga and Sadiq were supposed to fight.
Yep.
I think they're
Back
going
in
to match
September.
them. Yeah, they're gonna match them.
So
I
it's a good
know that.
time to go and have a vacation and just not think about it for a minute and
Yeah, there's
let
just
everybody else let things sort them out. You're in the clubhouse with a good win, a great win, back in the win column, back moving forward. Put it aside for 6 weeks.
yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. Again, I could control what I can,
Yep. Yep.
and that's showing up.
Yeah.
So I'll enjoy my vacation, and I'll just get back to work, and
They
we'll
will
see where
call
it
at
ends
some
up.
point with a name.
Yeah. Yep.
You're rocking the burn the boats hat. Talk to me about Eric Nixick and the influence and impact he has had, career, life. You guys had a really, if anybody watched the end of the fight, if it didn't cut to commercial on their broadcast or whatever it is, I watched it back today before we sat down for this. You guys had a pretty serious emotional hug there. Talk to me about that guy. I have a bit of a relationship with him. Everybody that watches my stuff and listens to my stuff knows that how I feel about Eric and the friendship we've been able to build. Obviously, you guys working together on a daily basis is much stronger than that.
Yeah. No, I love Eric, and I I know he was so stoked for this win for me. Just for the things we've gone through together. Through all my losses, he went through all those losses with me. He took those losses too, and he took them hard. Um, and I remember in the cage after this last fight, I just knocked him out, and I was still just kind of yelling whatever emotion that was inside, and
Right.
he's like, "Can I have a hug?" And I'm like, I didn't even want to give him a hug because I was like, let me just be
Get this out of me
for a
first. And
second.
then, yeah.
Then he just came and gave me a hug, so I gave him a hug. But uh, yeah, man, we went through a lot together from the very beginning. When I came to Extreme Couture 7 years ago, I moved to Extreme Couture, or I moved to Vegas and found Extreme Couture, and I had been there too. And like when I was still living in Hawaii, I would fly out, live at Brad Tavares' house for like a couple weeks, train. But I developed that relationship with Eric early, and at the time, Eric wasn't, he wasn't the coach in the spotlight.
Right.
There's Robert Fallis, great coach. He was like kind of the guy that started changing the evolution of Extreme Couture, and so a lot of guys gravitated to Robert Fallis. Eric was like, he was the gym manager. He was
Right.
coaching a couple guys, but I wasn't looking for like the big name coach. I just I was looking for someone that I had belief in, that had belief in me, and we could simultaneously grow and make each other better. And Eric was that guy. Eric was a guy that just wanted, like, he was destined to be a great coach in anything whatever he would have you know proceeded in, whether it was football, coaching freaking pickleball, whatever. Like, he can be a great coach at
Right.
anything. So um I gravitated towards that, and his energy too. Just, he has this alpha mentality, um, that just wants to be great. And just over the years, honestly, for me, it's been awesome to watch his evolution as a coach and watch him start getting that recognition and that shine that he deserves. But he's never a guy that gets caught up in his, success or works. He's constantly getting better. I like that he stays involved. He stays involved in the media, stays involved in the sport, constantly watching tape, constantly a part of big fights, title fights. So he's growing so much, and I feel like I'm right on his coattail now. Like, I get to be part of his success because there's only one way to the top, and no one's gonna wait for you. So I'm just excited. I love that guy beyond fighting. We weren't in this to make money. We were in this to be champions, and that's the road is the same. We're on the
Right.
same road. It's a rocky road,
Right.
and I'm just honored and stoked to have him as a brother and someone that's always been there for me from day one.
And you guys, he knows this. I've talked to him about this a bunch of times. You guys still have my favorite all-time post-fight social media celebration after you knocked out my fellow Canadian Gavin Tucker with the as he's shotgunning a beer. It's like I literally can type into my laptop Dan Ige and hit I after it to start Instagram, and it knows to pull up that clip. It
That's
knows
hilarious.
just to go to that. It's my favorite one. I told him going into it, I need a remake at some point. I need a sequel at some point. I understand why it didn't happen this weekend,
Yeah,
right? There's three guys fighting, lots on the line. You can't just celebrate one. But
yeah,
at some point, I hope you get another walk-off victory and you guys can recreate it because it is one of my favorite moments that I've ever seen on Instagram.
yeah. That's funny. That's a good memory. Yeah, we stole that from Brady and Gronk, and we were just
He very
witnessing.
much strikes me as a Gronk. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's totally Gronk. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a retard. But sorry, I don't know if we can say that in this day and age.
That's all right. Before I let you go, we'll get into some not MMA stuff. You
Sure.
mentioned before you moved to Vegas, you would come and crash on the couch of another Hawaiian, Brad Tavares, longtime Vegas resident. You got to explain it to me. Like, I know it's the ninth island, but what is the draw of Las Vegas for Hawaiians? Is it the weather's pretty comparable? Like, we got pretty good weather, but we don't like. I've been to Hawaii. I've been to Vegas.
Yeah,
They're not the same. They're not like if you give me the choice, I'm going to the islands because the ocean's there.
yeah.
Vegas is Vegas. But what's the pull? What's the attraction?
I honestly don't know what brought the Hawaiians out to Vegas. It must be like, I know it's getting more expensive now, but
Right.
it's cheap to live here. Um, I think Hawaiians like gambling. I think they're just
Fair.
drawn to the
Yeah.
casinos, and
Fair.
they love gambling. So,
To
but yeah,
watch lots of fights.
yeah, fights and gambling. It's just we, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, Brad was living out here for a long time already, and he was the only kind of connect I had that was like that had made it. That wasn't Max Holloway. Max Holloway was in the UFC at the time, and living and training in Hawaii. He was like he was an outlier. He's the guy that was able to do that, but it's really tough to make it in Hawaii as a pro fighter without having another job. And
Right.
I mean, I was working 40, 50 hours a week of construction and training back home in Hawaii. And I knew at one point I was like, I got to go to Vegas. This is even the coaches back home in Hawaii. They don't coaching is like their side job. It's just
Right.
their side little hobby and passion. All the coaches have to work full time construction jobs. So there's not a ton of flexibility. You get to train at this one time,
Right.
and
Everybody's fitting in the thing that they want to do around the things that they have to do.
yeah, exactly. So I knew for me, eventually I was like, I'm gonna probably have to go somewhere if I want to grow and I really want to seriously pursue this. So I knew Brad was in Vegas, and I like mentioned earlier, I've been out here a couple times, and he was always like the pioneer. And
Right.
anything that he said, I just took it like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. I'm gonna listen to him. And he was right. He's 100% right. You know, I had to, for me, in order for me to grow, I had to leave my home, and it was hard. Like I love Hawaii. I'll consider it home forever, but I kind of it's one of those things I have to sacrifice right
Yep.
now, and maybe one day we'll get some property there, but we'll see.
Last one before you go. On that note of kind of two homes, Vegas and Hawaii, give me some Vegas recommendations for anybody that's coming out to Vegas, and then give me some Hawaii recommendations for anybody that's making the trip.
Oh shoot, Vegas. Yeah, I mean, I just think about food. Um,
Yeah. Dude, do I look like somebody that doesn't think about food all the time? Let's
um,
go.
wow, there's so many good spots. This past Saturday, I just stayed at Barry's downtown Prime. It's at the Circa Hotel. That's like an amazing steakhouse if you guys want to get some good steak and tons of good sides and appetizers. Um, Allegro or La Strega, both of those spots, good Italian food. North Italia is good Italian food. Um, okay, non-food stuff. I mean, Red Rock. I like getting out in nature. I ride my mountain bike a lot too out here in Vegas, but Vegas has one of the biggest mountain bike communities, believe it or not. Um, Tons of trails out here, like over 600 something miles of mountain bike trails. So do that. It's fun. Other than that, there's not too much to do besides train.
Fair,
Sorry.
fair. No worries. No
Hawaii,
worries.
go ahead up all the spots. I'm from Haleiwa, the North Shore of Oahu. So I like to stick on that side. A lot of tourists, but it's more of a local countryside. Honolulu, same thing. It's more touristy, Waikiki Beach and stuff. But yeah, I typically stick to the North Shore over there. There's a good spot seat there, and just I'm usually out in the water surfing, and that's where you'll find me back home.
Fair enough. Before I let you go, tell everybody where they can follow you, how they can pay attention to everything that's going on social media, and keep track and learn from you when you get that call and what that next name is.
Yeah, I mean, all my handles are the same: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. It's Dynamite Dan 808. And I'm relaunching my YouTube series, so I'm going to start putting more stuff up there, and I want to change the dynamic a little. Start talking, using my platform to start helping people, whether it's ice bath tips, mental health stuff, breathing. Um, I'll be posting more content like that. So yeah, Dynamite Dan 808, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
Well, I look forward to seeing it. I appreciate the time. Enjoy the vacation. It is well earned. Congratulations again on the performance against Damon. Thank you for doing this, man. I really do appreciate it. It's
For
been
sure,
great.
for sure. Thanks, Spencer. No, thanks for having me.
For Dan, I am Spencer Kyte. This has been a conversation with. We'll see you next week.